Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening we'll be taking a look at the Sinister Motives player cards. I saw once in a video that the developers said that they had developed the first 20 heroes kind of all at once and had them ready to go pretty early in the life of the game. And we've been through 20 heroes now. I think Vision was the 20th hero pack, so I'm interested to see if the heroes that come out after this are different in terms of their power level, in terms of their mechanics. We'll see. The first one we're going to look at here is Ghost Spider, Gwen Stacy. She has 3 recovery, the standard 6 hand size, and 10 hit points. Her action, choose to either shuffle Ticket to the Multiverse from your discard pile into your deck or ready George Stacy. You can't evaluate that until after seeing George Stacy and Ticket to the Multiverse. Ghost Spider Hero Form, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense. She's a web warrior. That's a new trait. Dizzying Reflexes. Response, after you resolve an interrupt or responsibility on an event, ready Ghost Spider, limit once per phase. Hand size 5. Okay, well that's the same stats that Spider-Man has. There are a lot of events from the protection aspect that have interrupts or responses that are reasonably efficient. So it does seem that Ghost Spider is a protection-oriented hero. But it's not possible to know how strong she is. This is a good start, the ability to ready, but we need to take a look at her other cards and see what her card draw and or resource generation is going to be like, along with her other defensive abilities. Ghost Kick is her first event, 2 cost. It's an attack. After Ghost Spider uses a basic power, deal 6 damage to an enemy. Max 1 per basic power use. Okay. Well, 6 damage for 2 is fine. The limitation of having to use a basic power first kind of sucks, but then you do get to ready her afterwards. So you get 6 damage plus a ready for your 2. It's not bad. The primary things we're looking for a hero to be considered S tier in solo play are A, card draw / resource generation, and B, defensive abilities. Defense meaning defense against boss attacks and or healing, and defense against threat. How well can she thwart? For example, if we took a hero like Spider-Man, he draws a card every time the boss attacks, which is great, but his threat reduction his threat removal is very weak. All he has is the Spider Tracer in his hero kit, and that's difficult to use and unwieldy, and he only thwarts for 1. So his defensive abilities concerning attacks are very strong, and his resource generation is not bad. He has his web shooters, he has his card draw, he has his generator resource while in alter ego mode, though we hope not to use that. But he fails on the third thing, which is threat removal. He does not also does not have the ability to stun, and he doesn't have the ability to ready himself, and those are other tools that we're looking for. So from Ghost Spider, we see that she has the ability to ready herself. This is a damage event. We haven't seen her resource generation yet, and we haven't seen her threat removal yet. But we'll be looking for threat removal cards because she only has a thwart of 1. So we get 3 Ghost Kicks, okay. We got Parental Guidance, 0 cost event. If George Stacy is in play, attach 1 event from your hand or discard pile face down to George Stacy. If he's not in play, search your deck and discard pile for him and add him to your hand. Okay, seems like he's going to be an important card for Ghost Spider, so this gives us the ability to go get it. Phantom Flip, 2 cost event. After Ghost Spider uses a basic power, remove 5 threat from a scheme. Okay, well that's better threat removal than Spider-Man has. 2 for 5 is not great, but it's okay. And get to ready as well. So this is good emergency threat removal. It's not going to help you out like it'll be a little bit swingy removing threat this way, right? Because you're not going to want to use this if you're only removing 2 or 3 threats. You have to let it build up a bit. And you probably don't want to hang on to this in your hand until the time comes when you need it. So you have to draw this when you need it. And sometimes that means you're not going to draw it when you need it. And that's bad. So we may need, depending on what other threat removal Ghost Spider has, we may need her to get help from allies for threat removal. Which is what Spider-Man has to do a lot. Spider-Man I don't consider an S-tier hero. The S-tier heroes that I have at the moment are Doctor Strange, Captain America, Protection Iron Man, and Ant-Man. And each of those heroes has the ability to remove threat every round. Doctor Strange can do 4 with his Cloak of Levitation, plus he has Images of Icon, plus he has Cloak, or no, it's not Cloak, it's Astral Projection. Iron Man can do 5 every round with his Arc Reactor, his Basic Thwart, and his Helmet. Ant-Man can do like 3 with his Flip to Tiny and his normal Thwart. Plus he has another event that he can thwart with. And Captain America has the ability to ready himself and he thwarts for 2, plus he has Fearless Determination. So Ghost Spider has the Phantom Flip and her basic thwart. She's a little bit more inconsistent on thwarting than the other S-tier heroes. She still needs resource generation and or card draw to even get up to their level. So we'll see. So far, the ability to ready herself is good, but I wouldn't say these events are that good. Pirouette and Punch, 2-cost event. When a card is revealed from the encounter deck, deal damage to the villain equal to 1 more than the number of boost icons on that card. Cancel that card's when revealed effects. Okay, that's a nice defensive card. Get some damage in as well, and trigger the interrupt so you can ready. I like it. It's a good card. Probably if you just get like 2 damage on the villain, this is very strong. Anything more than that is phenomenal. So if you have even 1 boost icon on a card, this is a good card. Good defensive card. And if you get 2, then it's really good. I like it. I like this a little bit better than the other events. I think it's a little bit stronger. Though the Phantom Flip is very necessary. Web Binding, 2-cost event, requirement, Science Resource. While paying for this card, spend the listed resource. When an enemy would activate, cancel that activation. If a minion's activation was canceled this way, deal 4 damage to that minion. Okay, well just canceling a boss attack with this I don't think is that good. You can interrupt, so you can ready Ghost Spider, but just canceling a boss attack, it would have to be a really heavy attack, like an attack for 6 or more. So this would be like an emergency cancel of a boss attack, but nothing more than that. For the minion one, it's pretty good. If you can make full use of the damage and even eliminate a minion, yeah, I like it. You can get full value out of this. It's not quite as good as Pirouette and Punch, but it's good. It's a little bit better than Phantom Flip, probably roughly equal to Ghost Kick. The science requirement's a bit of an annoyance, but it's good. It's a good defensive card. This is definitely a defense-oriented hero. Attack, not threat removal. George Stacy, 1-cost support. Events attached to George Stacy may be played as if they were in your hand. Exhaust George Stacy. Attach 1 event from your hand face down here. Okay. So that's helpful. And so when you need your responses and your interrupts to be available every round so that you can defend each round and then ready Ghost Spider and have her basic action available for your turn, this helps to make that more consistent so that you can save events from turn to turn and not have them clog up your hand, which is a big problem when running protection sometimes, because you always want to save strong events, but I mean, with every aspect, you want to save your strong cards from turn to turn, but you also don't want them to clog up your hands. This is a nice utility card that helps you to mitigate that. It'll help with the resources a little bit because you can draw an extra resource instead of having to keep the card you want to play in your hand. I like it. It's a good card. Ticket to the Multiverse. Generates 2 wild resources, or it's a 3-cost upgrade. Remove Ticket to the Multiverse from the game. Discard your hand, shuffle your discard pile into your deck, draw up to your hand size, and ready each Ghost Spider card you control. Interesting. Are there any other cards that we've seen that need to be readied? It's just George Stacy, right? Everything else is events. Okay, so you can ready Ghost Spider. Well, if you have only 5 cards in your hand, I don't know that this is that good. You can discard. You'll be probably discarding 1 card unless you pay for this with extra resources. Like if you have George Stacy on the table and you exhaust him, put an event face down with him, and then use the remaining 4 cards in your hand, which would be Ticket to the Multiverse and 3 others. So you use the 3 others, play Ticket to the Multiverse, redraw your hand, and then you can play the event that's with George Stacy plus any other cards you have. It's a very interesting card. Situationally, I think it has a use. The 2 resources are always nice, 2 wild resources. And situationally, it'll have other uses. Definitely a card that's going to need playtesting. I don't think it's inherently incredibly strong, as in we want to play this every single time that we see it, and you remove it from the game afterwards. That sort of implies that they see it as very strong. It could be. It depends on, let's see, what's the last card? An upgrade that gets exhausted? Okay, so there is another card that can be readied. Interesting. Difficult card to evaluate. At the very least, the 2 wild resources is nice, so it's not like a useless card for sure. And situationally, I could see this being quite good, but it requires some setup, I think. It's not something you'll see on turn 1 and be like, oh, okay, now I'm getting off to a really strong start. And the final card, if there's 2 of them, there are 2 of them. Web Bracelet, 2-cost upgrade. After you resolve an interrupt or responsibility on an event, exhaust Web Bracelet, draw 1 card. Well, that changes everything about this hero. Without this card, we're looking at a pretty mediocre hero due to no resource generation and no card draw in the other cards. Here we've got an extra card practically every round if we're playing protection, and Ghost Spider does seem to lean heavily in that direction. This is really strong. These Web Bracelets are the best cards in her kit, and these probably make her an S tier hero. So it's max 1 per event, so you'd have to play 2 events to draw 2 cards, but just drawing 1 card every round, which this Web Bracelet does allow you to do, really elevates the hero to another tier, because you already have Unflappable from the protection scheme that will allow you to draw a card when you take no damage, and she has 3 defense. So this seems like a very, very strong hero to me. I hesitate to say that she's S tier without doing all the playtesting. But I think she's very, very strong. Without the web bracelets, no. Pretty mediocre, but with the web bracelets, yeah. Card draw is very, very good. And this is good, very reliable card draw that's pretty cheap. So, web bracelet, very, very strong card. One of the best hero cards in the game. So let's take a look at the cards that come with her pre-con deck. Protection cards, no surprise there. We've got Silk, 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, a web warrior, 2 health. After you play Silk from your hand, if you control another web warrior card, search the encounter deck for a treachery and discard it. Okay. Probably will get rid of Shadows of the Past a lot of the time. Maybe in advance. So you get 1 thwart or 1 attack, a chump block, which is decent. Plus you get a removing or discarding a card, a treachery from the encounter deck, which doesn't do anything immediately but could save you from a loss later. Interesting. It's not going to feel really powerful to play, but I think it is good. It's not exceptional, but it's good. I think it's pretty good. We'll probably play this ally every time that she enters the hand. And definitely include her in a deck where we control a web warrior hero, which right now is just Spider Ghost, Ghost Spider. But we'll see. I assume Miles Morales is going to be as well. Spider-Man Miles Morales, 4-cost, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. After you play Spider-Man from your hand, stun and confuse an enemy if you control at least 3 web warrior cards. After you play Spider-Man from your hand. What if you play another card called Spider-Man while this is on the table? Probably that would work as well. It just says Spider-Man, it doesn't say Spider-Man Miles Morales. 2, 4, 8. An exceptional card if you get the stun off. So you need to have, it says after you play Spider-Man, and he's a web warrior. So you need Ghost Spider, you need this Spider-Man, and you need 1 other web warrior card. And if you can do that, this card is exceptional. And if you can't do that, it's very underwhelming. So it's an all or nothing card. When it works, it's going to work extremely well. But a lot of the time, it'll just get thrown away to pay for other cards. But the Web Warrior synergy is off to a great start. Spider UK, another Web Warrior, 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 5 health. Interrupt. When Spider UK defends against an attack, deal damage to the attacking enemy equal to the number of Web Warrior cards you control. Well, interrupts happen right away, so that would happen before the attack. So you can defend with him. Even if you only had Spider UK and Ghost Spider on the table, you could kill a 2 damage minion that's attacking without Spider UK taking any damage. That seems really, really strong. Interrupts happen before the attack, so this is a very, very good card. This may be the best ally in protection if you're playing Web Warriors. Ghost Spider is looking really, really strong with the addition of these Web Warrior allies and also her web bracelets. She's looking like she has very, very good defenses against attacks. She's only lacking a little bit in the threat removal. She does have Phantom Flip, but that's it. And these allies aren't really going to help that much with thwarting. Still, though, Ghost Spider looks like the best defender of attacks in the game with the addition of these new allies. Bait and Switch, 1-cost event. The villain attacks you. Remove 4 threat from the main scheme. No, it's not good. I don't think I would play this. In most situations, it's not worth a villain attack for 4 threat. And you have to pay 1 for it. I don't really like it. I guess with Ghost Spider you could probably defend and then ready her with a response, but... And then remove threat, would that be good? If you could just negate the attack, for sure. Use her abilities, draw a card. Could be okay in that situation. But I still think it's pretty inefficient for what it provides. I would like for it to provide more threat removal for this to be good. Because if you take even 1 damage, then it's bad. So you'd probably have to spend other cards as well to make this work with Ghost Spider. But you could ready her again. So you get 4 threat removal. So this is sort of a compromise, right? She's got like kind of weak threat removal with the Phantom Flip, but they give you bait and switch if you can use it well. I don't think it solves her problem. With most heroes, there's no way I would play this. Because, like I said, if you take even 1 damage, I don't think this is very good. 1 cost plus the card for 4 threat removal, but you take a damage. You'd probably rather play an ally that thwarts for 4 over 2 turns, right? Yeah, I don't think you really would run bait and switch. Even in Ghost Spider, I don't think I would. It might be worth trying, but probably not. Jump Flip, 1 cost event. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 2 of that damage. If you paid for this card using a lightning resource, remove 2 threat. Okay, now we're talking. This is definitely efficient. I'll play this in Ghost Spider. Absolutely. I like it. So they're aware of her limited threat removal and they're helping her out with these protection cards, assuming that she's going to run protection. I like Jump Flip more than I like Bait and Switch. Bait and Switch is interesting, though. It could be good. Bait and Switch could be good. If you take no damage, and you ready Ghost Spider, and she's got a web bracelet out, and you otherwise wouldn't have been able to use the web bracelet that round, then it's pretty good. But is that ever going to happen? Because you're going to be using responses to defend against the villain attacks, and you're going to be wanting to do that so that you take no damage and can proc unflappable or hard to ignore. So you probably won't usually have your web bracelet available on your turn, even though you would have your hero action available on your turn, but you're going to be using the web bracelet, the unflappable, the hard to ignore on the enemy turn, and that makes Bait and Switch just a straight up the villain attacks you with no additional perks. And that isn't very good, I don't think. Because some of the time damage is going to get through, and that'll be bad. Yeah, I don't think I run Bait and Switch, but Jump Flip I like. It's efficient, allows you to ready, get some threat removal, damage prevention, yeah. A lot to like there. Definitely would run it in Ghost Spider. Return the Favor, 0 cost event. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a Treachery. Reveal that Treachery, deal 5 damage to the villain. Well, as a finisher it's good. If you're using it to close out a game. As long as the Treachery that you reveal doesn't kill you, but a lot of Treacheries... And if the game is close and you discard cards until you discard like an advance where you just lose, or an attack when you're at low HP, I don't think this is very good, even as a finisher. I don't really like the cards that give you a benefit but force you to take a villain attack or reveal a side scheme or a minion, or and none of them. I haven't really liked one yet. It has to be a pretty substantial benefit, and I don't think this is that. I think this is likely to be pretty bad. What doesn't kill me? 2-cost event, requirement strength. Heal 2 damage from your hero and ready your hero. No, that costs too much for what it does. I value ready the hero at like 2. So 2-cost event, and you spend the event itself for 4 in value with a requirement that you have to use a strength resource. I don't think this is very good, and I don't think I would run it. Another Spider-Man, Hobie Brown. 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, a web warrior. Play only if you control a web warrior card. When Spider-Man leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. Deal damage to the villain equal to the number of boost icons discarded. Okay. If you get like 4 damage that way, he's really... if you get like 4 damage that way, he's pretty good. But if you get multiple plays of this, he's exceptional. And you could, because it just says when Spider-Man leaves play, right? And there are other cards called Spider-Man. It doesn't say when Hobie Brown leaves play. It just says Spider-Man, and there are other cards called Spider-Man. So if you get multiple procs of this, it's exceptional. If you just get him, he's still pretty good. So his worst case scenario is never really going to be that bad, unless you discard the 3 cards and just get no boost icons, in which case he will be pretty bad. But I think most of the time, at least he's decent, and he has the potential to really be exceptional. So I definitely run him with the other web warriors. Across the Spider-Verse, a 2-cost event. Max 1 per deck. Exhaust a web warrior card you control. Search your discard pile for a web warrior ally and put it into play. Well, that's great because a lot of them are, well, a couple of them at least are very strong. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this ability. This is a very strong card. This gets auto included in every web warrior deck, I think. You could replay Spider UK or potentially Miles Morales. Yeah, I like this a lot. It's very, very good. And it's a wild resource if you don't have a use for it. Very strong card. The Web Warrior synergy is shaping up to be very strong. Young Love, it's the Gwen Miles team up. Heal 3 damage each from Gwen and Miles. It's good for its cost. It's an alter ego action though, which is bad. We don't want to be an alter ego in solo, and team ups are just bad in general in solo. So I wouldn't run this in solo. If I was running Gwen and Miles, I probably would run this. Like the heroes. I don't know, alter ego actions are a bit clunky. But at least it seems more playable in solo. Or in multiplayer, I mean. Wouldn't run this in solo. Decent, but wouldn't blame anybody who didn't include it, even if they were running Gwen and Miles together. Web of Life and Destiny, 3-cost support. Ignore this card's resource cost if your identity has the Web Warrior trait. Okay. After a Web Warrior ally leaves play, choose a player. That player draws 1 card. Wow, that's great. Free, and you get card draw if a Web Warrior ally leaves play. This is another auto include in a Web Warrior deck, and this synergy looks very, very strong. And I have no doubt at all that Ghost Spider's going to be an S tier hero now, with the addition of this card. With her web bracelets and Web of Life and Destiny, yeah, she'll contend for best hero in the game right now, with the cards I've seen so far. Very good card, very good hero, and looking forward to playing her a bunch. Plan B, 1-cost upgrade. Exhaust Plan B and discard 1 random card from your hand. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. Well, you would need to do this like 3 times to make this. Well, if you could do 2 times where you didn't need a card in your hand, you were going to discard it anyway, and instead you discarded it to deal 2 damage to an enemy, that would be decent. The problem is that doesn't happen that often in game. Like maybe once per game we just throw away a card instead of spending it on something, but it really doesn't happen very often. So I think this seems better than it is. I don't think it's very good, just because the situation needs to happen like 2 or 3 times to make this really good, and it just doesn't happen that much. We usually have a use for all of our cards. In a precon deck, maybe you wouldn't, though, because precons sometimes include cards that you wouldn't, well, they always include cards you wouldn't normally play otherwise, so this kind of makes sense to include it in a precon deck, pre-constructed deck, but in a deck that we're making ourselves, I don't think we'd ever, probably wouldn't run this. Okay. That is Gwen's pre-constructed deck, and she's looking very good. Let's take a look at Miles Morales. He has 4 recovery, hand size 6, hit points 9. After you change to this form, shuffle 1 Spider-Man card from your discard pile into your deck. I don't really assign any value to that, so I don't think that's very good. Spider-Man. The hero side, he's a champion and a web warrior. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense, balanced stats. Venom Blast special, deal 2 damage to an enemy and stun that enemy. That's great, depending on how much it costs to proc it. Spider Camouflage special, gives Spider-Man a tough status card, confuse an enemy. Also great, depending on how much it costs to proc it. So let's take a look and see. Arachnobatics, 1 cost event. Deal 2 damage to an enemy if that enemy has a stun status card. Deal 3 additional damage to it. If that enemy has a confused status card, deal 3 additional damage to it. Well, if you get 5 damage for 1 cost, that's very good. If you get 8 for 1 cost, that's phenomenal. 2 for 1 cost, not really. So a lot of the time, this will just get thrown away if you don't have a stun or a confuse on an enemy. And in certain scenarios, like against Thanos, for example, where the boss has Stalwart, this probably wouldn't be very good. But occasionally it's going to be exceptional. Occasionally it'll be exceptional, damage-wise. Double life, 1 cost event, max 1 per round, change your form. If you paid for this card using a strength resource, ready your identity. Okay. So you could change your form, heal for 4. Or you could attack and then change your form, ready your identity, then heal and change your form back. I like it. It's good value. And it allows you to make some use of your alter ego recovery ability. Because in solo, we never really want to be in hero form, but this would allow you to do that, or alter ego form, but this would allow you to do that safely. I like it. I would love if this card was included with every hero. But I like this. You can only use it 1 per round, that's fine. Swing in, 2 cost event, remove 4 threat from a scheme. If you paid for this card using a science resource, resolve Spider-Man's Spider Camouflage ability. So for 2 cost, you get 4 threat, you get a stun, or you get a toughness and a confuse. That's exceptional. That's one of the best events in the game. Good defensive card. Bad against Stalwart, but otherwise exceptional. I like this a lot. This is one of the best events in the game. This competes with like Bands of Critteract from Doctor Strange. It's not quite Winds of Watum value, but this is really, really good. Web Shot, 2 cost event. Deal 4 damage to an enemy if you paid for this card using a lightning resource, resolve Venom Blast. So for 2 costs you get 6 damage and a stun, also really, really good. It's not quite Bands of Critteract, which deals 7, but that is an invocation deck card, which means you have to exhaust Doctor Strange to use it generally. Web Shot's probably even better than that, given those limitations. This is a really, really strong card. Web Shot and Swing In, these are two of the best events in the game, and they come with the same hero. That's great. You get 3 of them. Gank Lee, 2-cost support. Exhaust Gank Lee, draw 1 card. If you're in hero form, choose and discard 1 card from your hand. Okay, so we haven't seen Miles get any resource or card draw. This is only really card draw if you have a card you want to throw away in your hand, and that will happen a lot of the time, but it doesn't generate an additional resource you can use unless you're in alter ego form. So if you can like double life and then use this, it's good, but otherwise it's meh. It helps you to cycle, but it doesn't really help him with his resource or card draw, resource generation or card draw. Jefferson Davis, a 2-cost support. Exhaust Jefferson Davis. Remove 1 threat from the scheme with the least threat. Well, it's the standard alter ego support. This one's pretty weak, really. It needs to be used like 6 times to be good, and that's not going to happen. We don't want to be in alter ego 6 times in a game. Even with double life, I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't really think I would ever play this when I draw. I'll probably just use it for resources. Power Within, a 1-cost upgrade. After your hero uses a basic power, discard Power Within, resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. Okay, so for 1 cost you get 2 damage and a stun. That's great value. Phenomenal value. This card might as well be another event, but it's, again, if it was an event, it'd be one of the best events in the game, again. So Miles Morales' events are unparalleled. He just needs resources or card draw. Defense Mechanism, 1-cost upgrade. After your hero uses a basic power, discard Defense Mechanism. Resolve Spider-Man's Spider Camouflage ability. Another phenomenal pseudo event. All of these are very, very good. And then we got 2 web shooters. Well, unfortunately, I don't think this hero is S tier because of the limited resource generation. No resource generation beyond web shooter, which is temporary. It's basically a spend 1 resource and the card for 2 resources or for 3 resources, which is okay, but I mean, would we rather have this card or just like another Genius, which generates 2 resources for the use of just 1 card? And instead we use 1 card and we generate, or we use 1 card and we pay 1 cost to generate 3 resources at our convenience. The resource generation and the card draw is very weak with Miles to compensate, I guess, for his very strong events. He will get a little help from Web of Life and Destiny, but only a little. His defensive abilities are limited to stunning and confusing, which is good. He has no ability to ready himself. He just has the really high value events. I don't think that's enough to get him into the ARS tier. I think he's like a B+ tier hero. Unless the Web Warrior synergy gets developed further. Or he eventually gets some kind of efficient card draw. But I think Spider Ghost is much stronger just because of her Web Bracelet, which is a really, really good card. Her Web Bracelets. Miles does have very powerful events, though, so he's going to be very strong up front. Just over time, I think he's going to get overwhelmed due to just not drawing cards or generating enough resources. Let's take a look at his precon deck. We've got Monica Chang, 3 cost, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health. After Monica Chang enters play, Search your deck, hand, and discard pile for a copy of the surveillance team support and put it into play. Place one snoop counter on each surveillance team you control. Okay, so for 3 cost, you get 1 thwart or attack, 1 chump block, and then you get to draw a card, play it for free, and buff it. That's phenomenal. This is an auto include in every Justice deck, along with 1 surveillance team at least. The best Justice ally, I think, by quite a lot. This is very, very strong. This expansion is looking very good. I think this is the expansion with the best player cards that we've seen so far. And I mentioned at the beginning of the video that we'd reached the end of what I think were the pre-developed heroes that were developed all at once. It kind of shows they've definitely outdone themselves with these player cards. Spider-Woman Jessica Drew. She is a 3 cost ally with 1 thwart and 2 attack. She is a web warrior. Her hero isn't a web warrior. Come to think of it, it would be great if Spider-Man Peter Parker hero and Jessica Drew could use the web warrior cards. Maybe they think that would be too powerful. The web warrior cards are really good, but it would be great if they could use them. 1 thwart, 2 attack, reduce the cost to play Spider-Woman by 1 for each confused enemy in play. Well, this web warrior ally isn't very good. Even if you reduced her by 1, would she be good in that scenario? She still wouldn't be that good. You'd have to confuse 2 enemies to make her good. And solo, that's never really going to happen. I don't think that's ever happened for me before. In multiplayer, it's not likely. I don't think this ally gets run even in a web warrior deck. Doesn't seem very good. Yeah, I don't see it. Homeland Intervention. 0 cost event. Exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control. And choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from that scheme for each card exhausted. Well, you would need like 2 shield cards available that you didn't have another use for this to be good. That requires a lot of setup. So, depends on what the shield deck has to offer. It really needs to offer, I would say... Interesting that we're developing a new synergy. I assumed that this was going to be all about the web warrior synergy. But now we're looking at shield cards as well. And it's in Miles Morales' pre-con deck. Was he actually a shield? No, he didn't have the shield trait. Why would he have shield synergy decks in his cards in his pre-con deck? Anyway, we'll have to see what the other shield cards are, but we want to see card draw or other defensive cards, other threat removal cards most likely, since we're looking at justice cards. Global Logistics. Exhaust 1 shield card you control. Look at the top 4 cards of a player deck or the encounter deck. Discard any number of those and put the others on the top and or bottom of that deck in any order. That's a card. That's really good. You only need to exhaust 1 shield card you control, and then you can get significant control over the encounter deck. I like it. That's so strong defensively that it's almost a reason to play shield on its own. Definitely very high utility control value. Could really save your life in some situations. But I still think we need to see what shield has to offer in terms of its resources or ability to draw. Field Agent, 1 cost support, uses 3 backup counters. When a shield ally would take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust Field Agent and remove 1 backup counter. Prevent 1 of that damage. Okay, so for like 1 cost you could get maybe 6 more attack or 6 more thwart. That's good. That's very, very good for the value, for the cost. 1 cost for 6 attack over 3 turns, or 6 thwart. Yeah, very, very strong. I like it. So shield's all about the thwarting. Okay. Justice can be very good against scenarios that have a lot of side schemes. With the Skilled Investigator card. Surveillance Team we've seen before. 2 cost for 3 threat removal. Agent 13, we get a new version of her. Captain America has a hero-specific ally as well. 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack. After Agent 13 attacks or supports, choose a shield support. Ready that support. Have we seen a shield support that we really want to ready yet? The depletable ones will just get used up faster, so I don't think readying them is that good. No, I haven't really seen a shield card that we really want to ready yet, unless there's one that's already been released that I'm missing. I don't know all the shield cards off the top of my head. So other than that, we get 6 thwart and a chump block. Well, if you could ready repeatable effects and gain maybe an additional 2 value, she's okay. She's very expensive. Doesn't really push the shield synergy forward that much. Could be a decent combo card though once we see all the shield cards. There may be something coming that we really want to use Agent 13 with. Dum Dum Dugan. 5 cost ally, 3 thwart, 3 attack. He takes 3 or 2 consequential damage. When you use Dum Dum Dugan's basic powers, exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control. For each card exhausted this way, he gets +1 to that power. He's very overcosted. Let's see. 10. And we really need like 2 or 3 shield cards to not have another use. I guess you can exhaust the depletable cards that you don't have a use for on that particular turn and then make use of them that way, and that's a lot of setup to get good value out of Dum Dum Dugan, and even then I don't think he's anything exceptional. So, shield synergy so far is looking kind of clunky. Doesn't look that good to me. Nothing like the Web Warrior. Speaking of, we got Ghost Spider, ally, 3 cost, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Play only if you control a Web Warrior card. When Ghost Spider leaves play, search your deck for an identity-specific event and add it to your hand. That's great. It's not quite exceptional, but it's pretty close, and it's well above average. Very good card, auto-include in Web Warrior decks that aren't Ghost Spider decks already. Spider-Man Peter Parker, we got a new version. 3 cost ally, this one is a Web Warrior. 2 thwart, 2 attack. Requirement, lightning, science, strength. So you have to pay for it with specific resources. After Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character, ready that character. That is an exceptional ally. And he's very plug and play. All you have to do is spend those resources. As long as you can do that, this ally is exceptional. You don't want him on the table every single time you draw him. This is very, very good ally. Does Spider-Man justice. Web Warrior, yeah, the Web Warrior synergy, it's the best synergy in the game so far. It's very, very strong. Based on the cards I've seen so far, this expansion is an easy recommend for the player cards alone, even if we end up with garbage and unplayable encounters. The player cards alone would make this an easy recommend for me. So we're looking at least one S tier hero and a very, very strong synergy. Is it too much to ask that they might errata Peter Parker and Spider-Woman to be Web Warriors? Because that would just be amazing. I would really appreciate it. Young Love we've seen already. Government Liaison, 2-cost support, exhaust Government Liaison. Play a shield card from your hand, reducing its resource cost by 1. Okay. Well, I mentioned that I wanted to see what resource generation or card draw the shield synergy had to offer. And it does have something to offer, but it's really just the standard resource generator. It's nothing special. So I guess Agent 13 could ready this and then generate another resource, but since she costs 4, you may not have anything to generate a resource for at that point. At least not on the same turn. And the shield cards seem kind of clunky. Not that strong. Certainly nothing close to the Web Warrior. I guess it'd be greedy to wish that they just developed the Web Warrior synergy more with Miles Morales rather than giving him shield cards, but we can't have everything, right? This is already a really strong box for player cards. Sky Destroyer, 3-cost support. After you play a shield card, exhaust Sky Destroyer, deal 2 damage to an enemy. That's okay, but you'd have to do that a lot. You'd have to play like 4 shield cards, I think, after you play this card, and that's possible if you get it out early. It's a one-off. It's a unique card, unfortunately. It would really improve shield if this wasn't unique and you could get 2 or 3 of them out. But as it is, it's fine. It doesn't really elevate the shield synergy that much, but it's fine. Okay, that's everything. Then we've got, I think, 2 more basic cards all the way down here. We have Venom, 4 cost, 2 thwart, 3 attacks, 6 health. After you reveal an encounter card, deal 1 damage to Venom. Deal damage to an enemy equal to the number of icons in that card's boost area. And he has a encounter card icon on him. So you get 15 damage, a chump block, which is beyond exceptional. But the longer he stays on the table, the worse he is. If he stays on the table just 1 turn, if you could somehow attack 5 times in 1 turn, he's phenomenal. If he stays on the card, well, he'd have to at least stay on the table for 3 turns to get full value out of him, right? So by that point, he's not very good. If he's out on the table for any more than 2 turns, I don't think he's very good. And you can't get full value out of him in that time, so probably I won't run him, but this looks like a very entertaining ally. I like the art. It's really good. Yeah, he looks very entertaining, but I don't think he's very good, because the longer he stays on the table, the worse he is. I mean, maybe in really weak scenarios, but you're basically elevating the difficulty level against yourself for as long as he's on the table, and I don't think he's quite powerful enough to justify that. Symbiote Suit, 4-cost upgrade, max 1 per deck. Your identity gets +1 to each of its basic powers, +1 hand size, and +10 hit points, but it has an encounter card icon on it. Well, +10 hit points for 4 cost is great. That basically justifies the cost of the card alone. So then we compare the +1 hand size and the +1 to the basic power to an additional encounter card each round. I think that's a wash unless you can use the basic ability more than once per round. If you can use the basic ability more than once per round, this is probably slowly gaining you value over time. but it would need to be on the table for like probably 5 or 6 turns to really get full value out of it, and you'd need to be able to use your basic power twice in each of those turns. So that's not very easy to do. This has very limited number of heroes where this would be decent. Maybe with Quicksilver, symbiote suit Quicksilver could be interesting. I might try that out. Maybe something like, I mean, could be good in Ghost Spider. She's probably gonna be readying herself every round. Take an additional encounter card in exchange for the +1 hand size, the +10 hit points. She'd defend for 4 and be able to thwart for 2. This could be good in Ghost Spider. Be worth trying out anyway. Could be very entertaining in Quicksilver, at least. I think this gets better the more players you have in the game, because if you're solo, you're doubling your encounter cards. If you're in a 4-player game, you're only increasing it by 25%. Very interesting cards, the Symbiote Suit and Venom. I think the Symbiote Suit is better than Venom. And it definitely has potential, but only with a very small number of heroes. Actually, I don't think it's that good with Spider-Man. He doesn't ready enough. But Quicksilver could be good with Quicksilver. It's not going to really elevate him from a middling hero, but it could elevate him a little bit. Maybe could be good with Ghost Spider. We'll try it out. We'll see. But regardless, this is just extra because this expansion's player cards are very, very good. I don't think Miles Morales is an S tier hero, but I do think Ghost Spider is. Miles Morales is limited by his limited resource generation or card draw, but Ghost Spider has her web bracelets, and with the addition of the very strong Web Warrior cards from Protection, which she's really going to use well because she wants to be Protection anyway. Yeah, she's an S tier hero for sure. I like this expansion, at least the player cards, and we'll try out the encounters and see how it goes. So, thank you for watching.